So this was a huge story for the interwebs and for gaming, I guess, history. The Atari Landfill was exhumed, a week back.
But should it have been a huge story? I mean, beyond the novelty of it, everyone plays it up like it was a big story, but this was never the myth that a lot of people think it was. What all I ever wanted to know was, is it all Atari? Is it all ET, or did they just dump everything in there? Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's what this has shown, that it was not all ET. Now, granted, there was a ton of ET carts in there, but I mean, in some of the first pictures that surface, you can see controllers, you can see Centipede cartridges. So I guess I mean, other than it's interesting, I don't know what they were trying to prove by doing it.
Well, it was Microsoft that put up the money. One of their subsidiary Xbox companies. They did this to film it for a documentary. It's going to come out, I believe, this summer on Xbox Live. It's going to be a documentary about the entire experience. Here's the thing. There were newspaper articles that came out in the 80s. There were books that came out that mentioned this happening.
Right.
So this was an event that was known.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe it says more about pop culture or about our society, that the ignorance of people not knowing or wanting to learn about these events makes it into a legend or myth when it shouldn't be.
That's exactly it.
Is that really the angle that this should be looked at?
Right. You allow willful ignorance for so long, you can turn fact into myth. I mean, that's kind of fucked up, but you can. And like I said, it is interesting just because it is part of any person who plays video games. I mean, it's part of that history. But I think what's more interesting is what I'm hoping the documentary is going to do. And there's even stories already about this. But focus on the downfall of Atari. Focus specifically on what led them to do this and why they did it. Because digging up a bunch of carts that you threw out just to probably throw them out. I mean, you're not really, and you're not doing anything.
And it's not like it was the entirety of Atari's library. It was from one location that was relatively nearby.
Right.
This is another thing. Like, they actually, there was an article yesterday, which I just saw before we started the podcast. The guy that was responsible for organizing trucking the games out there, he was there. So it's like anyone could have spoke to this guy in the past 30 years and asked him about, hey, you're the guy that was tasked by Atari to get rid of these carts. So it's not like this was a huge conspiracy.
Clarence, were you the one who pulled the lever on the dump truck? Yeah, can you answer a few questions? Yeah, sure, no problem.
So I mean, it's just funny in that respect. Chris Kohler was there, who did a great sort of write up of the event, just about in general and how the people are there. I mean, it's a cool event. I mean, if I lived close, I would have went. I would have went just to witness it.
Yeah.
You had Howard Scott Warshaw, which was actually on the Video Game Years and interviewed, and this is why it's so weird, because he didn't think they did this. He on camera said, remember, you remember seeing that clip? Yeah. He's like, I don't see them doing that. It's a big waste of money. But they did it. Maybe not to the extent that they thought. They didn't dump millions and millions, but I remember I asked Chris on Facebook, I said, are we talking tens of thousands or just thousands? He said there's tens of thousands probably. So I think they said there was about between 10 and 20 dump trucks full. Sure. So that's at least probably 100,000 games.
I don't want to sound like I'm trying to be down on everyone's parade. It was neat to see it. I just don't understand necessarily why it had to be done.
Yeah. So they found like shipping boxes of like ET. So they probably dumped whatever was in that warehouse out in Alamogordo. And I think I read that they originally were turned down of dumping it somewhere else, because they dumped some in another area, but there are people that were scavenging them in '83. I'm not sure why you'd scavenge them in '83. Where you're going to sell them at a flea market in '83. You're going to
50 cents.
Yeah, I was going to say you're going to sell back in '83, '84, even up to like '87, '88. You can go into a Toys R Us and see a bin of Atari games for like $1 each.
Right.
There are like big bins of them. You know how you go into like Target now or Walmart and you see like the DVD huge? That's how they were with Atari games, and they were marked down literally 90% off. So it's like, I'm not sure what scavengers, hey, it's a free game, I guess. But it's just funny to think about people going, oh my god, I want to play Centipede. The market has crashed. I won't be able to do anything with these. You know what I mean?
The majority of my 5200 library came from a dollar store in like 92 or 93 where I got two for $1.
I remember.
I mean, insane. Like, I mean, they just had no value.
Or remember Odd Lot, stores like that?
Yeah.
Or Odd Job, whatever they were called. I think it was Odd Lot in the East Coast. they would just get old stock of that crap no one wants. So they had Star Wars figures lining the shelves in the early '90s still. You know, like, so they probably had tons of these Atari games for, like, they were worthless.
Right.
You know, and it continued to be. It's funny if you find even box Atari games now, they're not worth that much to most people because there's so many of them. So it's a very interesting story. It'd be interesting to see the documentary. Like I said, Howard Scott Warshaw was there, and they gave it to him, which I guess is cool because people blame him for E.T. And E.T.'s not the worst game ever.
No, it's not.
He says that.
It's got a lot of really cool ideas, actually.
The fact of the matter is, he only had 5 weeks to make it. If he had a decent amount of time, usually these games took months to make, 6 months to produce. He rushed it out, and it's a complete game. And it was probably too ambitious for the time that he had to put into it, unfortunately. But it's a cool story. I just don't think that I wasn't like. It was cool, but I'm not, like, overwhelmed by it.
No.
The one thing that is interesting, though, is that James Rolfe is doing the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, which it's going to come out. My lips are sealed as to when. I know when it's coming out, but I'm not supposed to say. So this is a central basis of the plot, is that they're wondering, you know, like, there's it's in the trailer. It's like we're gonna go dig up these games. They're buried in the desert. So I don't think this throws a damp cloth on the whole premise of the movie. I think it actually makes it sort of more. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It sort of enhances it.
Timely, relevant.
Yes, it's actually timely because the documentary is going to come out, and then people are going to be like, "Wow, James is going to do a spin on this," and trust me, it's going to be interesting. It's not it's not like that's the entire movie. That's all I'm going to say. So that's all I'm going to say about that. It's a cool story. That what happened there. I'm glad that it got so much press. It'd be interesting to see a real documentary made about it. I'm not sure how many they actually dug up. What's interesting again, they were so sure where they were. They didn't have permission to go willy-nilly and dig up the entire area.
Yeah.
They only had a specific. The guy who was in charge of it said, "We're digging like one basic hole. If it's not there, that's it." They were there, so they knew in a huge landfill. They knew the precise spot of where to look to find these. So if that doesn't tell you that it wasn't a myth or a legend, it was, the information was out there. They knew the information, or else they wouldn't have spent probably hundreds or $100,000 to do the exhumation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you have it. It's interesting as an archaeological story too, because they dated stuff by the garbage, so like newspapers, they knew when they were getting closer, before they hit pay dirt. The one thing that was interesting, that the rumor was always that they poured cement over it, which doesn't seem to be true from what I can see. No one's reported that there was cement covered. Again, why would you pour cement over these games? As long as you bury them, put dirt on them, are people going to dig up, whatever 10 feet of dirt to get at these games that are mostly crushed?
It goes back to if people are digging up that stuff. Like if Atari has deemed it trash, then who cares?
Exactly.
Cement is just another added cost to getting rid of their garbage.